talk about why this was successful for you guys and how it really sort of connected your brand with the user.
Yeah, so about 2,000 thought leaders attend Davos, but the conversations and the topics there are, people are interested across the world. And so it was our opportunity to connect people to what was going on in Davos. And the year prior was interesting. We really started doing some real-time marketing where we set up, an office in Boston to do it. And we said, really, if we're going to do this right and really connect people in a more authentic way, you might have seen in the video, we built a two-story building where we used it for people to come in and recharge. But at the same time, that became our real-time production facility. So we could see if there was a topic that was trending, as an example, gender equality was a topic that was trending. We would bring someone in live, do a Vine, push it out, and then connect them to some longer form content that the bank had an opinion on. So again, we put the user at the center to say, what do people care about first and foremost, and then connecting them to where we had a point of view versus the other way around. That's why I think it was most successful.
So your customers have to sort of do a lot of brand reappraisal all the time, and I think it's probably especially intense for a financial institution. How do you stay ahead of that curve and know and basically anticipate what that reappraisal is going to deliver?
Well, we do certainly a lot of longitudinal studies to make sure that we are apprised of, seeing the trend line going in the right direction in terms of what that reappraisal is. And so much of it is, what is the experience? And I think Davos was an experience. It was less about just pushing out content, but the experience of what the bank was bringing to really bring them in, under the covers of this is really what was happening in Davos.
I think what's interesting about Davos is it's a worldwide event, but it's exclusive. Like Meredith said, 2,000 people are invited to attend, invitation only. Yet these topics they're talking about, everyone has interest in. And so, it's a real generous act to essentially create a platform, which Bank of America did, to bring those topics and that news to their consumers and their people. And what I found really interesting is that the engagement and the metrics were just off the chart. 80% share of voice that Bank of America had during this period of time, all driven and amplified socially. Not only just the #1 brand, but Bank of America exceeded their own benchmarks on engagement by 10x. Now again, a very exclusive event, but brought by putting people and issues at the center and then amplified off of a social platform that really captivated the Twitter feeds and the news streams for a good 3 to 4 days of the week of Davos. So pretty exceptional. It's the Super Bowl for world events, and these guys, they own the center of it.
You had touched on it before, but Laura, in terms of partnerships, how is collaboration sort of reforming right now, and how are you affecting sort of change in terms of breaking down silos and sort of discarding things that might be getting in your way?
I think it's a really important topic right now. I think, the last few years we've all been living in this world where everyone comes and says, I've got a special walled garden, and my walled garden is better, and it does this and this and this, and I've got a special silo, and it does this and this, and I've got a stack, and it does this and this. And so we're living in a sea of stacks and silos and walled gardens. And when you're a marketer, and when your job is to put consumers at the center, you sort of look at that and say, okay, but how do I go across? I'm not going to give 100% of my budget to one thing. How do I go across? And when you start to think about that, you then say, you know what, for me to be effective, the walls have to come down. And I have to partner differently. And I think, again, what Bank of America has done and what Starcom has absolutely championed is this idea of deep partnerships. Fewer, bigger, better. And when you partner, you really partner. It should be good for the brand. It should be good for the publisher or the media partner. It should be good for the agency. Everyone should take away from it a great win. I think some of the work that Bank of America has done with Vice is a great example of that. An untraditional partner from a Bank of America point of view, or even a bank financial institution point of view, but I think it's been one of the most successful things that you've done all year.
Those guys are pretty renegade in terms of content. Was that a concern for you?
Well, what we need to do is we need to reach millennials, and that's almost a bigger concern if we don't do it. And so when we thought about the best way to do that, we said we have to go to the authority who reaches that audience, and you have to have that trust. And so, yeah, there was some times where we had to make sure, how does this align with us as a brand, but they are the voice to that customer, and we had, is a little bit of a leap of faith, but if we both believed and had the same vision of what we were trying to do, and they really believed that their audience needed better financial education, because they believe that to the core, we knew that partnering with them was going to be successful.
You had mentioned your work with Vines. That's very interesting. Do you talk about how you are embracing and experimenting with new tech?
Yeah, so, again, experimentation is really core to everything we do, because we recognize that, again, people aren't necessarily looking for our content, so it's a real challenge for us to get engagement. And interestingly, we've taken some pretty complex topics and have gotten people in not only 6 seconds, but 3 seconds say, this is interesting, I want to learn more.
Right.
And, there's one we did on identity theft, which we were able to get people in 3 seconds say, this is something I need to learn more about. Again, we have a financial education program called Better Money Habits, which is really giving people useful, practical information. And to some people, that can feel like, eating vegetables. Like, I don't want it, but if we can do it in a way that's at eye level, that's interesting, that's actionable, I can get something out of here, but how do you get someone in? And that's really the challenge. It's that first 2-3 seconds has got to be engaging enough that someone says, you know what, I want to click in, I want to learn more. And then once they're in, there's certainly lots of long-form content.